Ukrainian drone operator defeating Russian attack. Along Kursk roads, Russian air assault forces attacked the Ukrainian garrison in western Russia's Kursk Oblast on or just before Saturday, rolling 8 BMD infantry fighting vehicles along the very same roads around the village of Viktorovka. They've been using since November for assaults on the 250 square mile salient the Ukrainians carved out of Kursk back in August. The Ukrainian forces anchored by the Heavy Mechanized Brigade and 17th Heavy Mechanized Brigade destroyed 4 of the 8 BMDs from the Russian 234th Air Assault Regiment. The repeated vehicular assaults along the same roads by the same Russian regiments, almost all ending in defeat for the Russians, are equally befuddling to the Russian rank and file, in sending vehicles and their crews on pointless bonsai attacks across the drone-patrolled no-man's land in Kursk. The predictable and costly assaults help explain the staggering Russian casualties in Kursk, as Russia's wider war grinds toward its 4th year. According to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, the 60,000-person Russian-North Korean field army in Kursk has suffered as many as 35,000 casualties trying to eject the 20,000 Ukrainians the oblast. The Russian counteroffensive in Kursk that began in earnest in November has shrunk, but not eliminated, the Ukrainian-held salient. Russian President Vladimir Putin keeps pushing back the deadline for his forces to fully recapture Kursk. After several revisions amid the overall failure of Russian attacks in the oblast, Saturday was a typical day along the Kursk front line. Russian and North Korean troops attacked from 16 directions, according to the Ukrainian Center for Defense Strategies. Just one attack resulted in any Russian gains, around Viktorovka, but the Ukrainian 6th Ranger Regiment still controls most of the village. Russian troops in Kursk are resorting to brutal war crimes as a way of venting their frustration and, they must hope, terrorizing their Ukrainian foes. Marines from the Russian 155th Naval Infantry Brigade, one of 2 Russian Marine brigades that have been destroyed and rebuilt several times in the 35 months since Russia widened its war on Ukraine, reportedly decapitated 4 Ukrainian prisoners and displayed the heads on pikes. Meanwhile, North Korea deployed 12,000 troops to Kursk in October. 3 months later, a third are dead or wounded. The North Korean 11th Army Corps may need reinforcements, and soon. The 11th Army Corps' 12,000 troops joined the roughly 48,000 Russian Marines battling a Ukrainian invasion of Kursk that kicked off in August. After 6 months of bitter fighting, 20,000 Ukrainians still hold 250 square miles of the oblast. The infantry-first assaults, largely lacking support from armored vehicles, aren't a uniquely North Korean phenomenon. Ukrainian drones are everywhere all the time, making it virtually impossible for Russian and North Korean vehicles to break cover. Tanks simply don't reach the line for launching an attack. Some Russian tank commanders keep trying. A Ukrainian drone operator in Kursk recently counted 75 wrecked Russian vehicles. The sheer scale of the mechanized destruction should tell a lot about heavy fighting in this area. The infantry bear the brunt of the fighting and the suffering. More than 200 North Koreans were killed or wounded in their first assault in Kursk. One failed assault earlier this month may have left 400 Russian casualties on the ground. By mid-January, 3,300 of the North Korean 11th Army Corps' 12,000 troops had been killed, injured, or, much less likely, captured. The small handful of North Koreans the Ukrainians have captured is indicative of the ruthlessness of the combined Russian-North Korean army, according to Zelensky. Russian forces and other North Korean military personnel usually execute their wounded to erase any evidence of North Korea's involvement in the war against Ukraine. Injured North Koreans sometimes kill themselves, sparing their comrades the ugly responsibility. Incredibly, North Korean losses might be higher, if not for their excellent marksmanship training. Unlike poorly trained Russian recruits, the typical North Korean infantryman has spent years preparing for battle. The statistics on the small drones they have destroyed attest to this fact. Ukraine's small explosive drones still kill a lot of North Koreans. Depleted by a third, the North Korean 11th Army Corps might need reinforcements, and soon. It's not clear that Pyongyang has committed to deploying more troops.
Водя, блядь, сядь! Пошел, пошел, пошел! Пошел! Давай, 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 пошел! После. Огонь! Огонь!